Welcome to part 3 of our 2022 retrospective. In the final episode of this series, we get to go over our favorite things from the past year. I make Ryan choose a favorite child, and we talk about what's coming for 2023. But before we get into all of that, here's what to expect in our call to action at the end of the episode.
Yeah. After the episode, join us for information on how to sign up for our brand new newsletter coming.
Our brand new news.
It's
new news.
New newsletter coming at the end of the month. Patron thank yous as well will happen after the episode, and other Patreon stuff. Until then, enjoy the show, everybody.
Welcome to our 2022 recap episodes of Character Creation Cast. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia, and today my co-host Ryan and I are going to cover some of our favorite things from 2022.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited about this. So last time we talked about characters. I'm excited to dig into this. We did a quick recap of what we've done. So the first question, let's just dive right in.
Yes.
The first question I wanted to ask, do you have a favorite game that we covered last year?
This was a very hard question to answer because we covered a lot of gems, right?
But I was like, this isn't a hard question at all for Ryan because I know what the answer is.
I do too, and it was because of the pure joy that I experienced while recording the series.
Yeah,
and this was Alchemistresses. I could not stop grinning with pure excitement and joy while learning about this game.
Is this the one that I took a screen cap of where I'm like this and you're like,
I was like, yeah.
Yeah,
I was just like,
people can totally hear that.
So excited. And like this game covered every single base of my nonsense, from front to back, forward. And it's just like every bit of magical girl goodness you can throw in there combined with like time travel, effectively nonsense of flashbacks.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this one, I said it a little bit last time, but this one was one that I was like, well, we'll cover it because it's Ryan's thing. You know, like who am I to deny you? And because the magical girl trope is just not one that I have a particular attachment to. I never really watched Sailor Moon. I never, it's just not my thing. But where this one got me is with those flashbacks and the emotional dissonance between when you get those memories back and the way that it has the potential to tell these really passionate but also heartbreaking stories.
Yeah.
And that's where I live.
Yep.
It is that great storytelling with flawed, interesting characters and interpersonal conflict.
Yeah.
And this game really hit that on the head for me.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
Very, very good at all of that. And I really enjoyed that it had everything that we could put into this game, like for both of us. Yeah. Right? It had so much good stuff for both of us. And I'm really glad that it went over well with you because, goodness, this game was so good.
It was. And covering it with Allison and Dora, they were really passionate about it. And you could tell. I always love covering things with the designers because you get that inside look at things and you can see why they did it. But you could just really tell that they were passionate about all of the parts of it. And it was very intentional and it was just so much fun. It was so much fun. I love the way all four of us kind of worked together. It was great. It was great.
Absolutely.
So my favorite game, and then later on I wanted to talk about our favorite mechanic. And I had a hard time kind of choosing between the two. So I picked one game for one and one game for the other.
Yep.
So favorite game covered, I put down Nova. I, first of all, supremely enjoyed the discussion that we got to have with Spencer about why he made the decisions that he did on a lot of things.
Yes.
But this one really brought to light for me the fact that you can have a combat-heavy game that isn't like, I slash my sword, I slash my sword,
yep,
I slash my sword. The way that combat in this game is designed like solving a puzzle was brilliant to me and tickled that part of my brain. And we got to see it when we made our characters, the way things kind of click into place and build on, different abilities build on each other, and the way that like each of the different kinds of sparks that you have the ability to interact with each other in different ways.
Yeah.
And I just, it was a very cool world. It was a very cool concept. And it again, did combat in a way that was interesting even to me.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Which is saying something.
Right. Well, I mean, the whole game is combat focused, right? It's supposed to be high octane combat power fantasy. And that's like the whole spiel behind the Lumen sort of systems is supposed to be fulfilling this power fantasy of being like hyper competent and hyper like combat heavy or action heavy types of role play, and like playing in those sorts of spaces in a traditional game really gives you like combat's like, now we're playing the game, now we're playing a different game with combat, and then we go back to role playing and stuff. But this is like combat's the puzzle that you're just trying to attack with different strategies and trying to figure out, well, what's the GM throwing me at this time, and
it really forces you to interact with the other players during combat, because one of the thing for me that really frustrates me about combat is it's the only time in a role-playing game where there are very set, distinct turns. And it's like you go from this collaborative storytelling thing to all of a sudden, my turn is mine.
Yeah.
And you can certainly do things to set other people up for success or things like that, but this game really forces you to work with other people to optimize the outcome.
Right.
To really solve that puzzle of what is the best way for us to go about this. It's not about like, how do I personally do the most damage? It's like, how do I ensure that our team does things? You know, how does what you do impact what I do?
Right. Exactly.
So my next question is probably next to impossible to answer. Favorite character that you made over the course of this year? This is
the hard one, right? Because we made quite a few. And I've got two answers. I got three answers.
Ryan, I was gonna let you have two.
Okay. I've got
three. Three is pushing it. That's like a quarter of our regular series.
I don't know. Okay, so
you may have two.
Okay, so I get two. Phew. Gosh, so hard even. Okay, so I mean, one of them is going to be Cat, my ridiculous D&D construct of a sentient car,
for sure,
or an organic sentient car, because I went into that series so antagonistic towards the process that we were doing. Like secretly, I didn't tell anybody that I was going to do that beforehand. And I was like, I'm going to create the most unhinged character I can think of and see how we can make it work.
Right.
Spoiler, we couldn't easily make it work. I went a little too unhinged, and I love that.
It was, I mean, and that's the thing, is that whole series going into it, the point was that it was an experiment, right? First of all, to show off the number of things that are available for D&D. But also to really kind of talk about that, what does it mean when there are that many things available?
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like I broke it choosing this vroom vroom character type.
Yeah.
And if I would have gone magical girl, if I would have leaned into my nonsense in that direction, we could have made it all work so easily. But like, this was too hard to pass up.
Yeah.
The vroom vroom. So that was one of my favorites. But like, I really loved also Daisy Thunder from Under the Neighborhood, my roller derby magical girl.
Right.
Like the concept of being able to rollerblade on ceilings and on the undersides of islands and like defying gravity and doing all sorts of magical girl shenanigans in small town Hartford and Sky Harvard.
Yeah.
It just sounds amazing. It sounds like an amazing character to play. I would watch an anime with, like, can you imagine a magical girl anime where a whole roller derby team is a team of magical girls?
It sounds like the most anime thing I've ever heard.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like, I would watch that and it would be so amazing. So I don't know. Daisy Thunder, but there's a lot of honorable mentions that I won't get into, but they're probably magical girl related. So
yeah, I mean, I think we made it pretty clear in our last one about, how it's very obvious how strongly we felt about a lot of these. This is just like such a tough question.
Yeah.
Personally, I picked our characters from I Have the High Ground, Princess Opal and Princess Sapphire / Obsidian.
Yeah.
Because I really loved that dynamic and in no small part because I love that game.
Yes.
It's just such a phenomenal concept. It's so well executed. I had so much fun making those characters and putting everything together.
Yep.
That I really loved where we ended up.
It was that would have been my number 3 easily. Those characters are just so good. And the fact that we flipped everything on the head of like Necromancer good actually.
Right.
And Little Goody Two Shoes is now corrupted and the big bad endgame evil character.
Yeah.
And like it was kind of like an interesting magical girl Dirge Stranglethorn situation when I think about it for my character. And then like your character was very opposite of kind of what you do, but still leaning into that necromancer like stuff, right?
Yeah, it was interesting because we still had that same archetype.
Yeah.
But their journey and what we did with them was very different. We decided to kind of play against the tropes instead of with them.
I think it worked out really well.
It did. It was a great dynamic. It was an interesting story.
Yep.
The stakes were incredible.
So good.
I'm very much in love with those characters.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And the art you made for it is just top notch.
That was fun. Yeah.
It was so good. So aside from games and characters we made, what were kind of your favorite moments from the year with our guests?
Can I list like a broad concept rather than like one specific moment?
100%.
My favorite thing is when we get to have designers on and they get to have the chance to start building characters in their own systems.
Yeah.
And especially when we start to kind of give feedback and say like, hey, I noticed this thing, or, and they either go, yes, that's exactly what I was going for, or wow, I didn't even put those things together. I love those moments where we get to just, first of all, say nice things to designers.
Right.
And where we get to really show them the cool things about their game, because I think you will look at something so long that, first of all, you can see all those little niggly bits and you start to like second guess yourself and that kind of stuff. But I think you also lose track of some of the joy of it. And so I love those moments where we get to kind of remind them or show them the really cool things about their game, which I know sounds kind of conceited to be like, we had designers on and we show them things about their games. But it's a thing that's happened where they've been like, wow, I didn't even realize, that you could do that. And sometimes to just have them on and be like, oh, I've never gotten to make a character in my own game.
Right, exactly. Well, because like a lot of these games are at the end of the process or near the end of the process. The game's going to be coming out soon. It's mostly polished, that sort of thing, or fully polished, right?
Right.
And it's already out. And then you've got like, you're at that point in the process, like as a game designer, if you're making a game and you've been working on it for a long time, you got all the bits that you don't like moved out, you got all the bits you do like moved in. You're at this weird, like hyper focused level inside the bits of the game that you can't easily step back and see the bigger picture. And when we examine games with this sort of lens, like we do on this show, we get to kind of pull them out to the bigger picture that they don't get a chance to see. They can kind of live vicariously through our third person eyes, basically, in a critical nature that really it's really cool to see when we pull them into that level. It's cool to see that joy come back for this game that they do love, but like they might be tired because, oh, I put so much work into this, or they might be potentially disillusioned about certain aspects of the game or whatever. Like, oh, we play tested this thing so much, but then like it feels fresh to them after that. And
they
really
spend
cool
so much time looking at like individual mechanics and things, it's like they can look at each move and be like, okay, well, like I need it to do this and I need to, and we get to kind of pull them out of it and say like, okay, thematically, what happens? And, on a broader scope, what can you do? And, the times where it's like, oh, I never like even thought about using my game to do that. But yeah, it's very cool. And I love, we get done recording and they're like, this was so much fun. Like I don't get to, like this was really nice. And it's like, well, good. I'm glad that you can see.
Yeah.
I'm glad to help show you what a cool thing you made.
Yeah. Well, I just love that after every recording we've had with guests, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like, even on a game like Ryotama where we kind of struggled through it, we still had a fantastic discussion. And that was one of the things that I loved about this year is we had a lot of really good, like hearty discussions about like the character sheets and the importance of accessibility, sanity mechanics. We had really good critical discussion about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's quite a bit more other good nuggets of discussion spread throughout the year.
Yeah, well, I know like with Nova, we had a really very honest discussion with Spencer about like interaction with the community and the sort of burnout that happens with some of that. And so, yeah, like getting to have some of those discussions of like both the sort of behind the scenes feelings of game design and also those really critical and nuanced discussions about pieces of game design and the community and things like that we were able to really dig into things that I think warrant discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If I had to choose a moment as my favorite moment, though, it's when I completely derailed our D&D session with my sentient car.
Yeah, like we were doing okay because we were like, okay, like an elephant and an orc and like a digigod, like we can, we can make it work.
Yep.
And then it was like, oh, also a car.
Also a car.
Yeah.
A race of sentient cars thrown into this dimension from an alternate dimension that are hunted eternally by the trains, the sentient trains of that universe.
About all that. Oh my god.
I blocked that from my memory.
I did. I did. Oh.
Yeah, it was wild. The choo-choos, I believe they were called.
Yep.
Yeah, the vroom rooms and their internal enemies, the choo-choos. So it was mischievous Ryan, I guess.
Yeah, which is not our usual Ryan. Our usual Ryan is very what is the word I'm looking for?
Submissive.
No, it's not even that. It's just like
appeasing.
Maybe that sounds like it still has like a negative connotation. Like you're really big on like teamwork and, finding that like relation between people. In this one, you were like, nah, trash monster.
Throw it out the window.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I also enjoyed the fact that this time it wasn't my exasperated sighs. That it was, it was Dylan's.
Yep. Poor Dylan.
Poor Dylan.
Dylan, thank you for putting up with all of our nonsense and effectively having 2 Arams in your presence for a little bit.
Yeah.
I know one's enough, but
scarred through life probably after that recording.
It's fine.
That was a fun one, and it took so long. It took so long. We had to stop our initial, like we did our first 2 episodes of that series, and then we had to stop and come back the next week because we were at like 6 hours only recording like 2.5 hours of usable audio.
Yep. There was there was quite a few tangents.
It was so bad. But so enjoyable, like so deeply enjoyable.
Absolutely.
It was great. It was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So speaking of enjoyable aspects of games, what was your favorite mechanic in a game that we covered this year?
I loved breaking things in Broken.
Yeah.
It is so unique and fascinating. Like we have covered games before that definitely have like that physical element.
Yeah.
We've talked about Starcrossed and the Tower, and like certainly there are other ways you can play and blah blah blah. And there are alternate options for Broken where you can burn slips of paper instead of breaking things. It is a game that has a lot of you play these really evocative scenes, these really like emotional scenes, and then you get to the part where you break something and it is so visceral.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't think I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah.
Like with Dread and with Starcross, you have that mounting tension as you pull things from a tower. But this mechanic of breaking something that you cannot put back together is so visceral and emotionally impactful in a way that I have not seen before.
Yeah. Cathartic too.
Right.
Like actually doing it feels pretty good.
Right. Well, you get to this, you do this thing where you have this fight with this person, and I think a lot of people have been in that situation where it's like, I just want to break something. I am upset. And here you are in this situation where you've, artificially made yourself feel that way. But you can break it. And then the representation of this shattered relationship as I have this shattered coffee mug or whatever in front of me is phenomenal. And it is, it's just genius. It's just like,
it's so good.
It's fantastic. I very strongly encourage Ben to submit it for the Ennies next year. I'm not a 100%. Judge, so I can do things like that. But I was like, this is unlike anything I've seen before.
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely on my list as well. The breaking mechanic in Broken. Probably the other one I was thinking was like the rituals in Sleepaway. And especially like before you play the game, you're supposed to invite the Lindworm to play with you and then sit in silence for 30 seconds.
This one came up a little bit on our Discord too.
Yeah.
The sort of like discomfort that some of us had with that, having been raised Catholic. This idea of like inviting things in is very like,
but not just things, but like really bad things, right?
Right. And so like I come from an upbringing where it's like you don't play with Ouija boards.
Yeah.
Like you don't, like we don't do tarot cards. We don't do horoscope. Like you just like those are forces beyond your control and that are like not from God. And so there is there's a level of discomfort for people that are kind of raised in those situations, which I know not everybody comes from this very conservative background, but there's a level of discomfort with a ritual like that of like opening yourself to an evil.
Yeah.
And again, that is another one of those evocative, visceral kind of experiences.
Exactly.
It's something that is not just like, I roll and we'll see what happens. It's like I am setting intentions and creating a mood for a game.
Exactly. But then like throughout the whole game, there's like these actual almost LARP-esque rituals that you have to do to do certain moves. Like it could be something like kind of in the horror genre of invite the Lindworm to play with you, or it could be something like you're taking a moment of respite, literally go outside and enjoy some fireflies in the middle of the night, and just have a time of decompression.
Go outside, touch some grass.
Watch the look at the stars. Right. It's wild. Like I don't think I've seen those sorts of like rituals as gameplay mechanics in a game before. Yeah. So it was really cool to learn about those.
We talked a little bit about before too, but also the juxtaposition and sort of the cognitive dissonance that keeps happening in that game of this very fun summer camp where you're a counselor and you've got these sweet kids that you're trying to keep track of and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, there's this looming horror. And the way that it's very easy to get wrapped up in the happy, nice things and forget about the horror stuff until it's there. Right. And the power that has. Yep. Of being all of the stronger because you completely forgot about it because you got so wrapped up in the good feelings.
I know.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Ugh.
We love world building.
Yes.
We're big fans of world building. We did make a character creation podcast, but man, we love world building.
We love it.
What is your favorite like world building thing? Like we made a lot of worlds and I think, some like they're all very good. But what is your favorite like tidbit or whatever from a world that we built?
So my favorite thing that we came upon during world building, it's just so out there. It was the Y2K ending of the world and the Rebels of the Outlaw Wastes, where everybody like AOL Instant Messenger was like one of the most important things to kind of carry over for some reason. It's like all the terminally online people are the ones that survived Y2K or something.
Right.
So that being such a big deal, and then like mixing that with Tamagotchis, like we just pulled from the 90s. We're like Tamagotchis, that's the new currency.
That little stuff became really important was fantastic. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The world building just spiraled from these like choices that we've made earlier on in the process of the collaborative world building, And that just really led us down a rabbit hole of, well, I guess there's Tamagotchi farms now.
Right. Yeah. The way we like leaned into this nostalgia was just
It was very good.
It was great. It was great.
It was very
so
satisfying.
much fun.
Yeah.
And, yeah. The importance of those little like cultural touchstones was great.
Yeah.
Was great.
So good.
For me, the favorite thing that we came up with, and I will never not giggle to myself about this. Was the world building question in Kids on Brooms of like our school sport, or like the big sport is blank combined with blank. And you said volleyball.
Yep.
And I said weird. I was thinking Iron Chef.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, that's what it is. Like, we're not going to try to make this go together. Like, we never explained what the rules were, or like how volleyball and Iron Chef would go together.
That's the best part.
But the very best part was the name that we came up with, and I don't remember who said it. But this sport was called Ready, Set, Serve.
Ready, Set, Serve. It writes itself with that name.
Yeah. And then, you know, like the way that it was like our school is perpetually in second, and my character was like, you know, always second best, and the way that like, you know, Amy Catherine's goal then becomes to take our team to the top and be the champion of Ready, Set, Serve.
Yeah, finally be the champion. Ready, Set, Serve. Gosh, it is. It
had very little impact on the world overall.
It did,
right? Other than it being like this, you know, this vehicle for me to finally be number one,
right?
And you know, that could have been any competitive activity. We could have been debate team for all I care,
right?
But it's just this one little piece that adds some color that I just like. I find so incredible. Like, I just love it so much.
Yep. Ready, Set, Serve is such a good, like I can see an anime being over the top, like serious about this competition of volleyball plus Iron Chef.
Right.
And like the drama surrounding it and all that sort of stuff. Like, I can see that being extremely entertaining from this really out there zany concept and combo.
Yeah, I wonder if you like, you know, like how you fare in a match, you know, like whether you win or lose, how many points you get affects like the ingredients that you get then in the Iron Chef round. I don't know, like part of me doesn't ever want to define it as like, do you just hit volleyballs with frying pans a la tennis? Like, I don't know.
And one of my thoughts was like, you're spiking your ingredients into the frying pans and stuff across.
You have to like volley the melons and and I don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
The mystery makes it even better.
Just love this concept of volleyball Iron Chef.
Yeah.
It's stuck with me and it's amazing.
So good. I had some honorable mentions as well. Like, of course you did.
Ryan does not like to have to
can't narrow it down to just one.
Or say anyone is better than anybody else. Ryan's like, I love you all equally. Right?
Yep.
yeah. There it is. There it is.
So the Sunspire detail that we added in our Nova series, like knowing that this world is a world of darkness with like, you know, the sun exploded and the shards of the sun became like these hubs, like they provided power and magic, blah, blah, blah. But like the thought of like this gigantic shard of the sun impaled into the ground with this structure built around it, and seeing that from a distance is like tickles like the cinematographic like portion of my brain that's like that would be like you think about like this gorgeous
sweeping, you know, like the lens flare a la J.J. Abrams.
Yep, exactly.
Like there would be so much lens flare. Yeah, and like this sort of like vine roping around. That's like one of the green growing things in this world. Yeah, it was
would be
very
gorgeous.
Cool.
Such an evocative image, but like. So that was one of my big honorable mentions. The other one was just the Belade Valentine's Day parade.
I am so attached to my belated Valentine's Day parade. And, you know, this came from like rolling that very specific date, but then also all of our experiences growing up in these sort of, you know, suburban Wisconsin towns. And my own childhood experience of Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, and the fact that people set out their chairs and everything for these parades like days ahead of time. And it's not a big fancy parade, you know, like there's no parade floats. It is just the same quintessential small town parade, like with the high school marching band and the Palms team and the Girl Scouts and the, you know, the Key Club or whatever. Like it's not any.
Well, it's the experience of just going to the parade as a community, right?
I guess, but like I talk to other people from other small towns, you know, and like Menominee Falls is not a small town necessarily. Like it's a suburban, it's 36,000 people or something. But I talk to other people about it and they're like, no, it's not like why?
Yeah, that's interesting.
But then also the idea of all of us having grown up around here that February is a terrible time for a parade.
Really?
Like I don't know what it is up by you, but by us, Christmas parades happen at like the first weekend in November.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't. No. Like you don't want to risk doing it that late.
No.
Yeah. So like Christmas parades happen before Thanksgiving.
Yes. Well, exactly. And like we chose belated Valentine's Day because it was A, after Valentine's Day, and B, it like we found out that this date on in 1997 was like on a Tuesday, and it was like the last Tuesday of the month. So it was like the last Tuesday of February, we're doing this. Right. And you know, because
like Tuesday is a terrible day for a parade.
We've waited too long, and we've waited long enough, like, and it's close enough to spring, right?
Yeah.
But we don't want to be out of February.
Right.
You know? So
well, and the way that like, you know, because it was like, why that date? Because we'd rolled that date, you know, it was like, why that date? And the way that then it impacted like everything else that we did in the story. Like we ended up naming our town Hartford. We had the Hartford Heartthrobs roller derby team. And it was like Valentine's Day. And most importantly, this belated Valentine's Day was so important.
Yeah.
It was great. It was just like this one detail that sort of spiraled out from there.
It was perfect.
I loved it so much. It was great.
It was so good.
It was great. A little bit like a favorite before we kind of get into some of like, you know, what things. Favorite behind the scenes thing for you this year?
Oh yeah. We did a lot behind the scenes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we really focused on kind of growing things and expanding and you know, sort of
providing more value to our listeners.
Yeah.
We started a Patreon.
We did. That was a big move.
Probably at the top of my list, I think, because like that gave us another avenue to give content to our listeners.
Right, because there have definitely been times in the past where we like have these ideas and we're like, that would be fun, and then we're like, okay, like why and when and
right,
like that doesn't fit.
Exactly.
I've loved doing our chit chats.
The chit chats have been
like
we've been doing
so much
that
fun.
Right. And I wasn't planning for us to do it weekly at first, but like it's become like a really nice thing every week.
I look forward to it because it is a designated time where I get like we're both busy adults, we're parents, we've got full-time jobs on top of doing this kind of thing. And it's been a really nice sort of forced socialization for me, especially because I need that like for my mental health, but it's really nice to know that every Tuesday I sit down with one of my friends and we just chat. Like we just have a little hangout for 45 minutes to an hour. You know, and it's really refreshing and it is mentally stimulating and you know, like sort of a like an emotional value to it too. And I like that like other people get to hear it. You know, it's kind of I like that our listeners kind of get to know us and And certainly we do have conversations that we're like, this is an off mic, kind of thing. Because the world doesn't need to know every detail of our personal lives.
Exactly.
But yeah, like I really look forward to that sort of weekly friend time. It's like it very much feels like we have like a weekly set coffee date or something.
Exactly.
And I love that. I love
that too. And that's one of the things that I love the most about what came out about the Patreon, right? We're like, well, let's do something special. For times are tough. Even the $1 patrons can get this sort of content, and we're already talking about doing the cold opens and stuff anyway.
Well, that's the thing is like we were already sitting down and like, we type up the notes for the cold open, but the whole time we were doing that, we were just like chatting about things, and we kind of found that like we're spending this time kind of catching up before we start anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things for us too that we've been kind of careful with on our Patreon too, is making sure that people are getting value for their money.
Yeah.
But also that it's sustainable for us.
Absolutely.
Mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed that bonus social time. I've really enjoyed being able to bring extra things to our patrons. It's a weird thing to like start asking people for money.
Right.
That felt weird to me. It's like a sort of uncomfortable, like, but I really appreciate like we were able to make sure that we weren't taking anything away in order to do that.
Yeah.
That was really important to me, is that we're not taking something and putting it behind a paywall.
Right.
We're just giving you the option of like, if you want more, this stuff is also available to you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I want us to get back into, it's been hard, it's been really hard to get into the swing of doing bonus like episodes of like covering a game or doing an AP or whatever of a micro game. It's been hard to like find the right games.
Right. Because that does take a lot of research, and previously we had just used one from the Waka RPG book.
Yeah.
And that was really easy. But we've kind of sort of exhausted the ones that can be done with just 2 people.
Yeah, easily.
Or that have a robust enough character creation.
Right.
And so then, you have the added level of needing to find a game, needing to learn that game well enough to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
Ridiculous.
That's the tough part. As we learned with our stumbling through Marvel superheroes base building.
Okay, I don't know that any amount of study would have fixed that.
I understand that.
I think that's a them problem. That is not user error.
Right. But I mean, it has the same concept of going into it without knowing anything is virtually impossible unless it's like a micro game. It doesn't make for
good audio.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
where's this? What does this mean?
Right. It's not fun to listen to.
We have to have the time off the mics to learn the game before we can get on the mics to learn the game, if that makes sense.
Right.
To actually put our readings into practice through character creation. And then if it's a small enough game that allows us to do 2-player AP, then we can do that as well. I know we did that with quite a few of those micro games, especially the ones that were GM-less.
Yeah, like Improvito, I really loved. I enjoyed that one so much.
Absolutely.
I'd like to find more games like that. I'd like to be able to. I really do desperately want to put more bonus content in there.
Yeah.
It's been a struggle to find the things to do. It should be able to research the games, because you do have to read all of them and see, if they're going to fit what we need to do. I think we have a couple other ideas of things that we want to do. I'd really love to collect random tables again.
Yep.
And just make nonsense based on random tables.
I could do that all day.
Seriously, I think what I really need to do is just like sit down and collect those tables.
Yeah. Then we accidentally make AMFC the C3 edition.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Who are we making this time?
See, but that's the thing, is like we don't go into it with anything. We're just like, let's see what happens if we take hats from a bear and different types of animals.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. We have a lot of ideas of what we want to do for bonus content. It's just especially this time of year has been rough. And then you've got on top of that, like, being able to go into them, having to research stuff it's been hard to find the time to do that.
Yeah.
But like, hopefully in 2023, we can get a good cadence for those.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is just the level of pre-recording work that we just haven't been able to do. And if we can kind of find a way to do, like, have like a backlog of options, especially if we do like random tables and stuff, it's like once we get the tables, we can just, like grab a few and like, here's what we're doing today. Let's see what happens.
Right.
I think that's a good option. For me, as far as like behind the scenes stuff, one of my favorite things that I've really gotten into this year has been making playlists for our series. And making the art for our series. So I decided to make myself a free trial in Canva because I was like, I want to boost some of our social media stuff. And algorithms obviously favor images. I am not an artist, but I just wanted to start playing around with it. And so I did the free trial, and poor Ryan was just like inundated with me being like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And then I was like, fine, I'll just pay the $15 a month. And then also my sister is a college student. She used to get access to it through her job, but she had to leave that job. And she's like, oh, I really miss my account. And I was like, business account it is. So that we can all use it. And nice. I've had a lot of fun making things for that. I've, redesigned headers for our YouTube page. I did like the little tier graphics for our Patreon. I've been making little images for every series. And it's like some are better than others. Some are, like every so often I'm like, oh, I can see where I'm like not great at graphic design because things like don't quite line up or,
Right.
But like all of our 5-Star Friday graphics, like I've done those. Just something to do like a little promotional thing and then make it a little more interesting.
Absolutely.
And then with making the playlists, it's been a fun exercise of like matching the thematic elements of the game and the things that we've created. For our Alchemistresses series, for example, working in the diner of Millennial Times was a big factor. And so I decided, like, we were doing this one in the future, but I was like, okay, a diner, you think like 50s, 60s, whatever, like retro. So I decided to kind of take some of those retro music, like it's like there's like Elvis and a bunch of that kind of stuff. But if you listen, all of the songs have elemental themes. There's fire, earth, water, air. So that was a lot of fun to do.
Absolutely. That
kind of stuff as like a bonus way to interact with the content. And I've loved what I've come up with. And it's been a lot of fun doing those like extra things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to get back to at some point making my Pinterest boards too.
Oh yeah.
Because those are fun, just like aesthetics for the games.
Yeah. No, I've really been enjoying what you've been doing behind the scenes there. Like you've kind of taken over the social media person type stuff of the podcast.
Which has definitely been complicated in the last few months by this sort of downfall of Twitter, because Twitter was certainly the place where we posted the most. It's had a pretty big and consistent RPG presence. And I think was the place that a lot of people did those things. Yeah.
And now no clue what the future brings. No. So we're kind of all over the place, still posting stuff to Facebook and Instagram, trying to post stuff onto Tumblr.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about Tumblr. I really gotta
I don't really know what else to do there. I mean, we're still posting to Twitter.
Right.
Which is still kind of our main avenue of getting information out there.
And I do post all of that stuff to Instagram when we have a new episode. I put our 5-Star Friday stuff there.
Yep.
There's not a quick way to just like post random thoughts or links on Instagram. Well, they don't really have that.
Right. That's fair.
Unless I put it in an image.
Yep.
So it's not good for that kind of stuff. We are working on getting our website up and running. Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll figure it out. We'll go from there. That's something future us needs to take care of.
Yes.
But speaking of the future, what are some things we're looking forward to going into this year?
I mean, mine are more sort of like goals than necessarily things I'm looking for. Making quote unquote content. I really hate that word, but it's like, it's the best word that we have.
Yeah.
Is a really weird place to be because you are in this position of needing to promote yourself.
Yep.
Which I don't know about you, but like certainly being like sort of a conservative Midwestern thing, feels so strange and so out of character because you're taught like, don't be prideful, don't talk about yourself, don't. So it has felt very weird to be in the spot of like, I need to let people know about the thing that I'm making.
Yep.
However, I've also really embraced the fact that I'm very proud of what we are putting out in the world. There are definitely places where I think that we can make it better. I think there are places where we both have lofty aspirations of things that we would love to be able to do, but are not financially or chronologically able to do at the moment. But I'm really proud of what we're making, and I am excited about spending another year trying to. I'm not excited about promoting it, like that. That part feels feels like work. But I'm excited about doing things to sort of grow our audience, and that doesn't come from a place of bigger numbers are better. Like I want 1 billion downloads, and I want. It's very much for me coming from this place of I enjoy making this thing. I think we are good at it. I think we are putting out something unique to the hobby.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of what we're making, and I want to be able to share it with people.
Right.
Not because I need to be famous, not because I need higher numbers or anything like that, but it brings me so much joy. And from the feedback we've gotten from other people, it brings that joy to other people too. And I want to be able to increase our reach.
Yeah.
And so I want to finish our website because we waited really until we were 4 years in to
actually start legit
buckle down and do it. And there's a lot of work to be done there. We have 57 series. So, we need to make pages for those guests. I'm trying to make pages for the games. And it's not hard so much as tedious.
It's very tedious.
It's all stuff that I can do just fine with no, programming experience or anything like that.
I really wish we could hire somebody, if we could afford to hire somebody to just like trudge through it all and make it look nice and get it all taken care of. And then once it's all set, then we can just do it for every new thing that comes out and keep up with it.
And that's, I think, where we've gotten stuck is that we're trying to go back and do things from the beginning. But in the meantime, we're still making more things. And so it's like for every week that I spend not working on it, I am now like another 3 weeks behind
just
or whatever.
Extra behind, yeah.
Right. And so it's like, I think we need to develop a process to just start from where we're at, and then we can slowly fill in the backlog as time allows. The other thing that I'm actually kind of excited about is that we are working on trying to start up a newsletter.
Yeah.
Ideally, the hope is that the first one will come out this month, January. And I think that one will kind of focus on being a recap of 2022 and talking about, who we are as a show and everything. But we also want to talk a little bit more about our thoughts on the game that we've played. I think, one of my thoughts was, here's a list of similar games. Here's some like tie-in media if you're interested in this genre.
Yeah.
To kind of just offer like other insights and
Yeah.
broaden people's horizons, and maybe like have a little section like talk about things that we're excited about, just shout out stuff that we think is cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've started kind of coming up with a template for that. We're kind of figuring out how to distribute it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's some logistics and whatnot to figure out, but like, by the time this episode comes out, hopefully we'll have figured those out.
Yeah.
And have something for you. I think we're kind of shooting for the end of the month.
Because we want to be able to talk about what we've covered that month, and so obviously we want to put it out after stuff has come out, kind of that fourth week of the month.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I guess gets back to I keep like adding to this list. It's not in our notes. I'm really eager to get back to Character Evolution Cast.
Yeah.
We stopped that kind of around when COVID started, or midway into it, or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Because it was just, we didn't have the mental capacity or the time, which was weird because, we all had like nothing but time.
Yeah. It was mostly the mental capacity thing.
Right. I know that sort of mid-COVID is when my mental health really took a dive. I was in the middle of switching medications, and, it was like 4 or 5 in a row, had really, really bad side effects. And it was like, I just can't keep it, because it's another set of guests to book. We have to come up with a topic. The topic is more than just name of game.
Yep.
And we have to kind of do research and come up with questions that are specifically related to that topic. Whereas for our other games, we just use the same outline and kind of replace the name of the game and the name of the guests. And, every so often we'll kind of fiddle with questions depending on the game. But for the most part, it's a pretty consistent outline.
Yeah.
Which I really like, because I think it shows off each game and you can very easily compare them. First,
that's the point, right? Yeah.
Yeah. At first I was like, well, this is kind of boring. Like, if we just ask the same questions every game, people are going to be bored. And we have adjusted them as we've gone, over the last 4.5 years. We've learned, like, okay, this question isn't really that helpful, or it's not getting us what we want, or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
But the Evolution Cast ones require a lot more mental effort.
Yeah.
They're a lot harder to book and harder to plan. And
they're
and that
so
kind of
much harder to outline, because you have to tailor it 100% to the topic and
to the guest.
Yeah. It is. It's a lot of extra work. And it's why it hasn't come back yet, is because trying to fit that in with the other stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, with our added Patreon content and, our schedules and things like that. I am lately sort of having more of an emotional capacity to do some of that kind of stuff. I'm a little bit clearer since doing my ECT treatment. Hopefully I will continue to be. I'm having some issues right now, but I don't know if it's just winter or not. We'll see. But I really want to get back to it, because I think it was a thing that a lot of people mentioned in their reviews.
Yeah.
That they found it really helpful, that it's a thing that's not out there. I know we've had a number of people say, like, this should be required listening.
Yeah.
I think we have a few topics that we want to cover. It is, they are admittedly kind of hard to think up too, because you want them to be player centric, and we want them to be significant and helpful, and not the same basic advice that's out there already.
Exactly.
So yeah, they're hard work, but I think that they're some of my favorite episodes that we've made, and I've learned a lot, and I really do want to get back to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100% here too. Other things that I'm really excited about. This is probably our pie in the sky, like
mine are very practical things.
Yeah, this is so during one of our chit chats, we had the very strange, and who knows, it could work out, idea of inviting celebrities on the show to create characters and or world build with us.
Right.
And we got to start by asking Taylor Swift, because that was the first one we mentioned. So like we're going to try to reach out. We're going to see what happens. If any of them say, hey, this sounds fun, let's set something up, then we'll be over the moon. If nobody gets back to us, we'll be like, well, that was expected.
Right.
So we're going into it with very low expectations.
They can't say yes if you don't ask.
Exactly. That's the thing, right? And I really think if people that are like this massive celebrities, they're like constantly bombarded by their work and questions about their work and all that sort of stuff, like, why not go on something where you get to do something completely different and just have fun?
Yeah, it might be fun for them to like not be promoting something.
Yeah.
On the other hand, that does make it like sort of like a hitch in their schedule of promoting things.
True. And they'll still be able to promote things, but that's not the reason they're here. Right. They're like, well, yeah, I think it would be fun. Doing this, but
it would definitely be a series of like when we can, because obviously I don't think that we're big enough to get consistent celebrities.
No.
But
not with that attitude.
Maybe someday. Well, and I just also think that like this is something that we can really help them out with, because I think that you know, like Taylor Swift is really big in country music. She's really big in pop music, but I just don't really think that she has broken into the RPG genre yet.
Yeah.
And I really think that we can be her foothold, you know? Yep. And I think we can really help her reach a new audience. And so I really believe we have something to offer to these people.
Yeah. I'm sure nobody that's played TTRPGs have heard Taylor Swift's music.
No. And I don't think that they really fully understand, you know, like what a value she could bring to this, to this hobby.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's probably got a lot of really great game design ideas, but nobody's willing to listen to her because they're like, oh, it's Taylor Swift.
You got to do music, Taylor Swift. What's going on?
Right. And so I really want to be able to give these people a platform to talk about their really cool game design ideas, because I think it's not fair that we've really pigeonholed them into being celebrities instead of game
Are they
designers.
not human too? If you prick them, do they not bleed story ideas?
Right. Yeah, I think we really have something to offer here.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
I'd love to guest on more podcasts too.
I know. Yeah, that would be really fun. We've got a couple potentials in the works, and really, whether we guest together or separate, guesting on other people's podcasts has always been a joy. I know I've got an episode that I guested on of a show coming out sometime. Not really sure when, but we'll let you know when that happens. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. 2023 is going to be a good year to look forward to for the podcast. I think there's going to be a lot of good things coming out of the year. Yeah. We'll see how much comes to fruition, how much extra happens, if any.
It'll be interesting to revisit this at the end of the year and be like, wow, we were totally off. See, you know, like what things stick and what things don't.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I want to actually ask like one more question too. Well, I guess 2 questions maybe. Okay. What is one non-podcast thing that you're looking forward to? Let's start there.
Oh, interesting. There's a couple movies that I think that would be really exciting coming out. I know, especially for my son, he doesn't know about it yet, I don't think, but the Super Mario Brothers movie.
It comes out April 7th.
It does.
I know this because Nate is over the moon.
I know.
April 7th is his birthday.
Oh, fancy.
So, like, what greater, like, you know, you've known Nate since he was, you know, what, 7 or 8 or something like that, right? So, like, you know what a big deal Mario is in our lives. And he found out that movie comes out on his birthday, so that's what he wants to do for his birthday party again this year.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, and I know Quinn's a huge Mario fan as well.
Yeah.
And we're not going to show him or talk about it at all probably until at least winter break hits, so he can get it out of his system before school starts again.
Well, I mean, you don't want to have to hear about it for months either, or like every time a new trailer drops, or like.
Yeah. Well, he's not.
Not that I'm speaking from experience.
At the very least, he's not online at all.
That's true.
So
that's
he can't get exposure to that. And he's not watching shows that have commercials.
Right.
Because we're all streaming everything.
Yeah,
so like he's not getting it thrown at him.
Right.
Like the biggest thing would be is if they show an ad on like a YouTube thing or whatever. And he barely gets into that either because like, you know, he's supposed to stick to YouTube Kids because there's some things on regular YouTube that
obviously
not
aren't
appropriate.
For kindergartners. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like, where's he going to hear about it? Right. So one of these days we'll tell him, and I think he'll like lose his mind over that they're doing a Mario movie, and I think he would really enjoy it. It looks cute. It looks really fun.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot about the casting with Mario and Chris Pratt and whatnot, but like you know, the rest of the crew and the cast are look phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a lot of fun to experience that with. I don't know if we're going to go to the theater at all, if we're going to go in like the second or third week of the run and go in the middle of the day or something. I don't know what we would do there, but
well, maybe if we have Nate's party and we have extra spots, we can shoot you an invite, and you know.
Well, I mean, I'm certain he would be over the moon if that were a possibility.
I mean, you can have like up to like, I don't know, like 50 people or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Very cool.
Be like, I get to come invite my friends too. Yeah. Gosh, it's so hard still, you know, all these years into COVID to be like, oh, I'm really looking forward to this thing. Because you just don't know where anything's going to be.
Yeah.
I probably won't do Gen Con again this year. As heartbreaking as that is, I don't know.
Starting back into conventions with Gen Con would be tough.
Yeah. And it's expensive, and I know a lot of my friends aren't going still.
Yeah.
So that's why you go. I am very much looking forward to my Taylor Swift concert.
Yep.
I have not done a vacation or anything like that, you know, since the pandemic started, you know, and I know lots of people haven't, but just like being a single parent and not having that like personal break of time away and having had, you know, significant medical treatments and stuff this year, it's like, oh man, I really need a break.
You need a break.
I need a break. I think my last quote unquote vacation was the summer of 2020 when COVID like took this like big dip and it was like, oh, like we're getting back, whatever. I took a trip to Virginia with my sister and two of her friends, where we had like rented this condo thing. And I literally spent the whole time working while they were out doing stuff. We ordered food in every night except one.
Yeah.
And that one we went to a restaurant where we were like in the like party banquet room all by ourselves, which the four of us at a table, like it was so sad. You know, because it was, you know, 2020.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that was the last time I went on a quote unquote vacation. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to my little like 2-day trip to
that'll be nice.
Minneapolis.
Oh, it is over in Minneapolis. Okay.
Yeah, that's where we ended up getting tickets for. So we're gonna, you know, drive there, spend the night, kind of hang out for the day, do the concert at night, and then we'll drive home the next day.
Yeah.
So we get like a full day of just hanging out and being, because it's only about a 6-hour drive from here to Minneapolis. So it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to time with just like me and my sister, my youngest sibling, because the three of us don't really get to hang out ever, and it'll be a good time.
And maybe you'll run into Tay Swift and be able to
right, and
invite
I can
her
ask her to be on
personally.
the podcast. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
there you go. It all
For
works
sure.
out.
That's my goal.
Yep.
Yeah. My last question for you.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, do you have a podcast that you want to recommend to our listeners?
Gosh, I've probably recommended Killer Monster enough. That would be
and we did have them on our show to promote things, and I was on their show
Absolutely,
to promote things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I've got the behind the scenes show with James and company. And then, of course, Campaign Skyjacks. These are all like one-shot shows that one-shot network shows, right? And people also know about my work editing Pandas Talking Games now. They're on a little bit of end of the year vacation hiatus, which sounds nice, but they'll be back eventually. But I guess if I would have to recommend,
I mean, it doesn't have to be a gaming thing either.
Yeah, if I would have to recommend a podcast that wasn't like directly related to our circle, right? It would probably be What the Force, which is a Star Wars podcast that talks about everything about Star Wars. Basically, it's like it's pretty much the quintessential Star Wars show. Marie Claire Gould, who does our voice transitions, for all the
D20
segments.
For your thoughts.
Yep, that's Marie Claire, and she's the host of What the Force, and just absolute brilliant insight into everything Star Wars, and they are going to be diving into Willow as well.
Oh, cool.
And looking at it from all the same sort of perspectives of like what does the music mean? What does the themes mean? Of like what sort of things are they shooting for? Like with the myth and symbolism behind all the stuff. Yeah, it's
very cool.
Like really fantastic, informative, and really gets your brain thinking about all the like extra cool stuff about not only Star Wars and now Willow, but also like how story evolves through time and how we pull from various aspects of other stories to create our own stories, which really kind of works well in the thought of how you do that for role playing as well.
Yeah,
so
that's
like,
really cool.
I think not only informative about that subject, but also it's really helpful for how to tell stories well.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah. And I like the concept of like talking about the music and, like that kind of stuff too, and how that contributes to the story we're telling. And, it's like I think about sometimes what would a film be like if it didn't have that soundtrack, those scores, and the way that evokes emotion too. That's super interesting.
It is.
I think I have two recommendations. The first one I'm sure I've mentioned more than once probably is the Vulgar History podcast. It's hosted by Ann Foster. And it is a feminist comedy history podcast. So they just cover stories of like women in history, sometimes super famous ones, sometimes not. She's just wrapping up her Internacional season, so it's like women from all over the world, all over history. But it's just like they are fascinating stories. They're funny, and it just like it's really cool historical information. I love some of the themes, like the number of times that it's like, and then she wore pants, and it was, and it's really cool to see like the way that women have impacted things, the way that they have, fought against patriarchy and things like that. And then she scores all of them at the end. On her scandaliciousness scale.
Amazing.
My favorite series of episodes is about this Spanish Basque woman in who eventually goes to South America, Catalina de Arauso.
Mm-hmm.
And she just keeps causing problems and like stabbing people in the face. It's like every time she gets mad, she stabs somebody in the face. But then you get to this part where like a lot of the source for that one is that she wrote her own memoir. So all this is like from her autobiography. And you get to this part where she's like, and it was just proof that perseverance and hard work can perform miracles. And it was like, you have never done hard work in your life. You keep stabbing people and hiding in churches for sanctuary. Like you have never done hard work in your life. Yeah. And then she has, like a episode or two on Mary Shelley, goth queen mom friend.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's just great. It's great. It's a lot of fun. It's very informative. My other podcast recommendation is a podcast called Struggle Care.
Okay.
It is hosted by Casey Davis, who is on various platforms as Struggle Care, or I think Domestic Blisters on TikTok, maybe.
Okay.
She wrote a book called How to Keep House While Drowning. That is basically like, how do I take care of things in my life while I am also mentally ill?
Right.
And, or neurodivergent or whatever. But her podcast, Struggle Care, really focuses in particular on neurodivergence, especially ADHD, but various aspects of life. She has one about like, eco-shame and, trying to keep up with being eco-friendly while also being neurodivergent. She has one about like raising kids with ADHD. One that just kind of explains like, what is executive dysfunction? But it's all super conversational and very interesting. And I've learned a lot just from a few episodes. She's only been doing it for a few months, so there's not a ton of backlog, but it's really interesting, really informative. So if you are neurodivergent or know someone who is, it gives a lot of insight on what life is like in that situation.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Good recommendations.
Yeah. Yours too.
Yeah.
It's like a fun little question that's not about us.
No.
I think that's all we have to kind of wrap up.
Yeah.
Our discussion. 2022 was a big year for us.
I'm glad we were able to do this. I know we normally have a full series, a brand new game to start the years, but it's been a rough December, as we said. It's
well, and we're right around the holidays
right
too.
Around
that
the
it's like trying to find. Normally, that's the other thing too. Is normally we record on Sundays.
Yeah.
And of course, Christmas and New Year's are both on Sundays. Yep. So that was like two of the days this month that we just couldn't.
It's been so tough.
And you're trying to get guests too around this time of year.
Yeah.
So.
And I know Amelia and I were planning to get together, but the universe conspired against us. We were instead recording this retrospective of 2022 and looking forward to 2023 instead. So we really hope you enjoyed these episodes. I had a lot of fun going down memory lane for this year and listening to all the little snippets that we did before recording.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Just so much fun.
Well, and I hope that, if there are people out there who, haven't listened to a particular series or something like that, that it kind of helps people, find something that sounds interesting to them if you haven't listened. Because I do always tell people, I'm like, you can skip any series. Like, if it doesn't sound interesting to you, that's the nice thing about our series. They're self-contained. Because sometimes I'm just like not in the mood for something, and then the backlog starts to get to me or whatever.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe you can go back and listen to something that you're like, oh yeah, that one was a fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We had a great year. I'm really looking forward to 2023. I'm really grateful for all of the people that have backed us on Patreon in the last 6 months since we started doing that.
Yeah.
All of the people that have left reviews, all the people that listen, our wonderful Discord community. Like, I'm so grateful for the people that believe in us and believe in what we're doing.
Yeah.
We didn't go into this podcast being like, I hope we get bajillions of listeners. We went into this podcast being like, this sounds like a super dope thing to make.
Yep.
You know, like this is a thing that I would want to listen to. And that's always been what it's about, is like, I want to make a podcast that I want to listen to.
Yep.
And, you know, to the point where this was like my top podcast in Spotify this year.
Mine too.
Or second one. I don't know. I was re-listening to a lot of stuff to make playlists. But I'm really grateful for the people that have come along on this journey, that have supported us, that have been excited, that have shared it with other people, that have helped us grow and reach more people, and helps make this even more fun to make.
Absolutely. I don't think I could have said it any better.
Good.
Yeah. So.
Well, because I'm always right. So
it's true. I will.
And that's the dynamic right there.
I'm very supportive of you, Amelia, and you're correct.
Yes.
Good job.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for sticking with us this past year, and we look forward to sharing more with you next year. And we'll see you next time.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that. So originally, this episode came about because we couldn't do it. Like, we didn't have time or spoons or anything to do anything else. We had been planning to get together and play a game or, you know, like do an episode series, whatever, together. And then December
happened.
But I'm really glad that we got to do this. It was so much fun to go back and look at everything. So much fun to like talk about why we loved things, why we didn't. It was great for me because I just have several months of a gap in my memory from my ECT. So it's like we went back and I was like, did we do that? Oh, we talked about that? That's cool. That must have been really fun.
Yeah, exactly. I think this would be a fun exercise to do yearly. Maybe not as full of a series, like maybe a bonus episode of just our favorite things, like you heard in this episode.
In that like last week of the month or something.
Just throw it in
like
there
that.
after a series. Because I would really not want to go down to 11 series a year and miss out on a whole 12th of a potential game that we could cover that year. Well,
we're already so behind on games.
We got too many to catch up on. That's what I'm saying. So it's like we've got a lot to.
So here's the new rule, everyone. You get to put out 12 games a year collectively among you. Just talk amongst yourselves and decide what 12 games.
Unless they can come on spotlights and then, hit us up.
That's true. Okay, so like max of 24 games per year.
Spotlights per episode.
If we spotlight
per month, that'd be fine.
Ryan. We'd also like to do Evolution Cast.
36 games a year and Evolution Cast episodes. We'll see what happens.
No, we're not doing that. But what we are doing is a newsletter. We've mentioned it a couple times that we're trying to get one together. We're not sure if the method that we've decided on now is a forever method, but as you may have heard on our chit chats previously, if you're a patron, the things that we plan for this podcast often are not how things end up turning out. So we'll see. At the end of each month, we're going to send out a newsletter and we'll post it on our website. That'll recap the series from this month, kind of give more of our personal thoughts on it, which we don't always get to in our episodes. We'll summarize what we released on our Patreon feed, share links to things we're excited about, and whatever else kind of tickles our fancy that month. We'll see. I'm sure it'll change a little bit month by month. But you can sign up to receive that newsletter by following the link in our show notes, or you can go to the newsletter page on our website, charactercreationcast.com, and there's a little subscribe button on there that you can click.
And I'll make sure you can get to that page via newsletter.charactercreationcast.com, so it's easy to remember.
Well, there you go.
There you go. In addition to signing up for our newsletter, you can sign up for another thing, and that's our Patreon right now. All patrons will get access to some bonus chit-chat episodes where we talk about whatever is on our minds at the time.
Including how buff Smokey the Bear is.
Yep. Seriously.
We did mention
it. It's so much fun. I look forward to those chats with Amelia every single week, and
they're great.
And it's like a little bit of friend therapy
I'm still giggling about Molotov.
Yep. That's a thing that
so if you wanna know what that in joke's about,
for $1 a month, you can hear all about Molotov cocktails. But you get to hear things like that, and you get to know us a little bit better, which is a lot of fun. Beyond just that, you can sign up for higher tiers to get access to early release episodes, a new bonus series that we're calling Undying Bonds currently, that you won't hear anywhere else. And that is a series of Amelia and I working on a role-playing game together.
Mm-hmm. Yes, based on our magical girl necromancer obsession.
Yep, we're mashing them together and seeing what happens. So
two great tastes that taste great together.
I know. So definitely check that out if you can, because it is gearing up to be something pretty cool. So
I'm excited about it.
I'm very excited about it too. Or at higher tiers, you can even join the monthly Zoom chats with us and the other patrons at that level, which have always been an absolute blast.
They're great. They're so much fun. One of the perks that you get for joining our Patreon, of course, is that we get to thank everyone here on the show personally. We're really, really grateful. We always say this, I know, in every episode, but we are really grateful for everyone that can help us out. Your support helps us afford making this show, and we are over halfway to our goal of covering the costs to make this show. So without further ado, Lieutenant, we appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
DJG, Tigranosaurus, many thanks to you.
Eric Bonce, we are so glad to have you backing us.
Matt Newton, thank you for your continued support.
Shadim Cabal, many thanks to you.
We appreciate your support. Daryl Holiday II, thank you.
Thank you to the Shyest Barbarian. We couldn't do this without you.
Benjamin Sweeney, thank you.
Many thanks to Lurkin McGinnis.
Thank you to Rob Fletcher.
Kevin Brown, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tentacle Duck. So glad to have you backing us.
John Adamus, thank you so much.
And A3 Sketchpad, thanks for helping us make this show.
And of course, thank you to all of our future patrons. We really do appreciate your help.
If you want to help us in a way that doesn't cost any money, you can leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, Facebook, or a rating on Spotify. Every one of these does help new folks find the show, and they really bring us so much joy knowing that real people are listening to the show.
I like knowing they're not just numbers.
I
mean, I know real people listen to it, but then when you see like a real person actually say something, you're like, oh.
That's nice.
Oh, it's not just throwing it out into the void. That is all we have for this month. We are really excited for what we have in store for February. I can't wait. And we can't wait for you to hear it. Until then, take care of yourselves, stay safe, drink some water, enjoy your new year, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can be found on Twitter at CreationCast or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia Antrim, and I can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning, or on my other podcast, Garbage of the Five Rings. Our other host, Ryan Boelter, can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast it originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by the absolutely fantastic Ryan Boelter. Further information for the game system used in today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, extra outtakes, and much, much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time. Woo!
Yeah.
Clicky.
Those waveforms.
Look at those waveforms. It is well, I guess technically the first full clicky of 2023.
It is the first full clicky of 2023.
It's 2022 right now, but this is going to go out for
2023.
So
Yeah. I get you.
That's so weird.
We're in the future, folks.
Woo!
Oh.
Okay.
Well, so we've got a lot to go through.
Well, we should probably start with an intro.
That's true.
I can do it.
Okay. Well, let's get some silence. Let's do it professional.
Okay.
We're professionals.
Let's do it correctly. All right.
We're
Okay.
professionals. I think we can stop this recording here and then take a little break.
Nailed it.
Yep. We are professionals. I got an intrusion here by one Olivia.
I'm Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you are Olivia.
It's true.
Oh boy, we got
Another
noise in
intruder.
the studio again.
Who is it this time?
It's Olivia again.
Olivia
with punch bag balloons.
For myself.
Okay, now I got both kids in here. Okay, kids,
Who's getting Olivia?
we are almost done. Okay.
Who's getting Olivia?
Yeah.
Hi, Amelia.
Hi, Quinn.
She says hi, Quinn.
Hi, Mila.
Hi, Olivia.
She says hi, Olivia. All right. So we can stop. Here we